to die today, I would gladly die for you!
What's up, John?
Hey, how's it going, Jeff? Do you go by Jeff or Jeffrey?
I go by Jeff. Professionally Jeffrey, but everyone calls me Jeff. So
Gotcha. Well, first off, I love that you have the Zoom background up with our movie up. I appreciate that.
Junket style. You kidding?
I love it. We actually were talking about in our production office right now here in LA. Look, we have on
Nice.
the TV behind us, but
It's so easy to do. I mean, it took me 30 seconds to grab.
no,
the
I know
photo.
it's great.
It just looks so much better than my room behind me, or something.
COVID style, man. It's fantastic.
Cool. Where's Alex?
Alex should be on in a second here.
Okay, no worries.
I just was texting with him to make sure he was good. How's it going for you? You're in Vegas, right?
Yeah, I'm in Vegas. Yeah, things are it's crazy busy right now with just so many interviews. I mean, no major studio films, but so many streaming and on demand, and it's nuts. I'm doing about 15 interviews a week. It's crazy.
Oh my God. Yeah, you're slamming.
Yeah, so I had to fit in the Rising Hawk this weekend.
I appreciate it. I really do.
Oh, there's Alex. Where is he?
Hey, buddy.
There he is.
Hello. Is this thing on?
Yeah.
Is this working?
It's our hero.
It is our hero. Alex was actually helping Rocky, who plays Ivan in the movie. He was actually helping Rocky. Rocky's moving for a little while we're still in lockdown here in LA. And Alex was physically helping him move.
It's that 13th century hospitality at work.
Yeah, that's like brotherhood right there.
Well, Alex, welcome. Thanks for joining me. And thank you, John.
Thank you.
Well, John, I'll start with you. The Rising Hawk has its story based in Yugoslavian history. Is that right?
Ukrainian history.
Ukrainian.
Yes. Ivan Franko had written the novel, and it's a fictional novel, but for them, it's very much like the Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn type folklore, folk tales of their culture. And so they read this novel as little kids, and our film is inspired by. It's not an actual adaptation fully of the book, but it's inspired by. We've taken obviously some quite a bit of liberties. One being Alex is the protagonist, the main protagonist of the film, whereas the original Zakhar Berkut text that this was inspired by Zakhar Berkut, who played by Robert Patrick, is the actual protagonist. Main protagonist.
He has like 5 sons, I think, in the original.
In the original text, yeah, he has many more sons. We reduced
many more to
we reduced. Yeah.
Well, Alex, you played Maxim. Is it safe to say he's our hero? I mean, he's got a lot on his shoulders this whole movie, doesn't he?
Yeah, he tries. Yeah, I tried. We'll see. Maybe, I don't know. We got to watch it. But, no, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was like we were just talking about, with the sons. It's really Zakhar's legacy and his he's the hero, and then Maxim's the seedling of the hero that blossoms or sprouts up into the hero throughout. So, but a lot of other things happen too. So,
Well, John, I was glad to find out that I didn't know right away because I went into this movie cold. I didn't know if this was a fantasy or historical epic, and dragons and magic users.
Right.
So I was really relieved to see it was historical realism, because I just think that's, we're just overloaded on fantasy right now.
It was a conversation we actually had early in prep, many months before Alex actually joined the project. That was a discussion, between the producers and myself, and some of them were maybe pushing again, because at the time we had started, this was towards the end of Game of Thrones, and so people are, in love with that type of thing, and they were pushing it. But for me personally, I wanted to ground it in reality, and I had an ethos again of, let's keep it historical, but also like for our CG work, like the camera needs to feel real. Like if we couldn't do it with a real camera, we weren't going to do it in the computer, and that it just worked for us. So to keep it historical, keep it as real as possible, made the stakes higher, I think, for us.
Well, you also had historical accuracy in this and dramatic license, probably fighting each other all the way through the movie. And especially you, Alex, I saw your dirty fingernails. I saw the detail and all the actors, and they're drawing the bows back. I'm like, look under their nails. I mean, that was, other than your nice teeth, 13th century, but you had dirty fingernails. So I thought that was a really great touch.
Yeah. No, we actually talked about that, like making everything kind of gritty, and we did it to an extent, but at the end of the day, it's still a movie and it's still Hollywood. So we still want to have a little bit of, Sex appeal? Is that it? 13th century sex
We
appeal?
still have to appeal to maybe a younger audience who looks at Alex and Poppy and
Poppy, I don't know.
Rocky.
Yeah, if there was somebody.
Poppy was pretty dirty. I mean, she definitely engaged and
Yeah.
wanted to be dirtied up as well.
Yeah.
But we did aim really hard to try to be as authentic as possible with that to an extent. And actually, it was interesting. Our Ukrainian heads of department, they weren't accustomed to that. It's almost like for them, it was painful to have to dirty up these pretty beautiful, wonderfully talented actors.
Helps us get in character, though. You know, they're
they were like, why would we these are such beautiful humans, why would we dirty them? And we're like, because in the 13th century they might not have bathed for a couple of months.
People didn't start bathing till like the 1950s on a regular basis. I mean,
they
people don't realize
there.
turn of the 20th century, nobody bathed,
Right.
So that's why they use a lot of colognes and perfumes. They cover
That's right.
everything up,
That's right.
Yeah.
I just interviewed for the Stars Network, the Spanish Princess 2, this series.
Mhm.
And I was talking to the producer and the creator. I said, what's the most challenging thing in creating an epic series like this? And he goes, the battle scenes. He goes, what a nightmare the battle scenes are. And you have so many combat scenes. Tell me about how long it took to prepare for certain scenes. And you had to have some loose swords in there and, catch somebody in the face or something, right?
I'll let Alex talk about some loose swords. In terms of,
Alex, you were wielding some serious
he was
swords.
wielding some swords. In terms of prep, we had a wonderful prep stunt team, stunt a lot. Pasha and Dima, our two stunt coordinators, were wonderful. And to give them a shout out, and for us as a film, we've been nominated for a World Tourist World Stunt Award in the Best Action for Foreign Film category, which is a huge accomplishment because these nominations go out to everyone from like huge Marvel movies all the way down the line. So we're in the same type of categories as the biggest Marvel films.
But they definitely weren't corny. It could have gone really. I mean, real quick, the cabin firefight, just for one example, amazing choreography in that. I mean,
the actors, and I'll let Alex jump in here in a second, but the actors worked extremely hard. We didn't actually have as much time as we wanted originally to prep. Normally on something like this, we would have had maybe 2 to 3 months prior to shooting of them just prepping. We really had about 2.5 weeks of prep before we started shooting. So they were required to actually train throughout all of shooting period. And we tried to condense as much of the bigger action sequences towards the back half of the shooting schedule to give them some built-in time to train. So like there'd be days I'd be shooting and a certain scene, and if you I'd roll cameras, but as soon as I stopped, 100 yards away, Alex would be rehearsing stunt choreo with the team, and they would just do it in between my camera changes. And so, it was a nonstop, relentless.
Even when you used, when you're using your bow and arrow, the way you had it, it was all, because I did archery in high school, and I'm like, look, you're just not pulling it back. You were aiming, you were doing everything correctly. It was just amazing detail in that. And Alex, tell me about preparing for this. And do you have a special diet or anything too, or just?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, I like John said, stunt a lot. The Ukrainian team, nomad stunts from the Mongolian area, and and the Ukrainian Cossacks, like the horse team and everything. We were literally working around the clock whenever somebody wasn't filming. Like if Poppy was not filming a scene, she was over working with the stunt team. Whenever she'd be filming a scene and I wouldn't be filming a scene, I'd be over there working with them. So it was nonstop training, and it was a blast. It was really, really fun, and everyone was so good over there and so athletic, like Rocky and Poppy and Ollie and everybody. So it was fun. And there was a couple errant swords and fists that kind of went flying a couple times and smacked a couple people. And but it was great, and it was a really, really good time. And the weapons we used were just so well made that we never had any breaks. I don't think we had any breaks I can remember, so that was good. And the costumes all held up. They were really authentic. And
was it strange wearing the same costume the whole movie though?
Yeah.
I didn't see many changes going on.
Yeah, I had 2 sets of pants, which was good because they were starting to smell really bad. But yeah, for the most part, it was just the same boots, same same gauntlets and guards and stuff. And I was just thankful I didn't have to wear the chainmail armor that Tommy had, because that was like 50, 60 pounds worth at least. It was really heavy. And I was just eating as much as I could because we were burning so many calories running around.
Not to give any spoilers away, but towards the end of the film, I'm like, just push him in the river. He's wearing chainmail. I just push him in the river, just hit him, and that chainmail will sink him. I was a D&D kid, in the 80s. I grew up playing role playing, so I'm just like, I'm walking around, I'm like, oh man, that chainmail weighs a ton. Just push him in the water.
You're literally thinking about how you can roll that so that you can end up in the water. That's
like,
great.
oh, what are my chances? It's funny. I love, one of my favorite characters was, I guess, is Boone. He was that wild warrior.
Bohun.
I mean, tied to a stake, bites the ears off people. I mean, that guy, out of such a huge ensemble, he really made a mark throughout the whole film.
That's great to hear. That's Oliver Trevina. He's now a really wonderful friend of all of ours. Alex, you hadn't known Oliver before we did the movie, correct?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was actually just thinking a lot about it. I've been doing these daily Instagram posts as we count down the release of the film, and I did one about Oliver the other day, and that was one of the bigger conversations we had early on in the prep for the film with him, which was his character doesn't show up until about 30 minutes into the movie, so he doesn't have the benefit of getting like a backstory. You know, we don't spend a lot of time with him until he appears. So when he appears, he has to immediately impact the film and pop. And Oliver worked really hard coming up with a really great performance, and so it's wonderful that it stuck out to you. He'll love that when we tell him later. We'll be like, Oliver.
Well, it's also funny because, you know, during the final battle with the Mongol general, Alex, you know, he cuts you a couple times. You know, he gives those little slices. And I kept thinking, 13th century, you're so dead. You're going to get an infection. I mean, let alone everything else going on. But I saw those major gashes. I'm just like, if you get hit with an arrow, I mean, you're dead. I mean, your life expectancy was, 25 or less?
Yeah.
You know, but when he's cutting you up, I was like, that guy ain't going to make it. He's going to have an infection in a few hours.
What we haven't told you yet, and maybe this is the world exclusive, is for Rising Hawk 2, Alex actually becomes world-renowned bacteriologist. And
find some mushrooms and some
herbal remedies. Right. Ukrainian mushrooms solve all of the wounds.
Can you see? I don't know if you can actually see with this, but there's like this little scar right here now. It's kind of shrinking every day, which is good. But that was a real. I got stuck with it was the day we were doing the river stuff, or the big, you know, like, not to give stuff away, but the water stuff. And yeah, so part of me was kind of like, after when I saw that was real, I was like, oh shit.
That reminded me of the Ten Commandments too. You know, all the water and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like right out of a biblical kind of ending there. You know what? Robert Patrick, he's your name in the movie. He's center in the poster, as he should be. Wow, he impressed me. He could really handle a sword. I mean, he wasn't just a figurehead. He got in there and did some really cool moves.
So Robert, you know, we actually originally had these super complicated choreographed scenes, right, with Robert, like where he would do a whole sequence. And Robert actually on set pulled me aside and in the very Robert way, with that deep, gruff voice that Alex can do for you in a minute. He said, John, this is what's going to happen here. I'm going to swing this sword, but I'm going to swing it as if it's the heaviest, biggest thing ever. I'm not going to be doing like turns and swings and he's like, that's Alex's job. He's the agile one. I'm the old guard. I'm going to swing the sword like I'm trying to take someone's head off. And God bless him. Robert went out there and he swung that sword as if it was like his life depended on it. And we didn't need to do any choreograph, you know, moves with him, because he just did it. He just went for it, and it looks great on camera. I mean, when you see him swinging that sword, if you're the stunt guy in front of him, I mean, Robert never hurt anybody, you know, but that stunt guy and Robert had a trust, because Robert was swinging, and if there were, you know, and that stunt guy knew, and so they worked it out, and you know, we filmed it. But yeah,
no, like I said earlier, watching all the action in this movie, you didn't see anyone working 20% on this. They were like full bore. I mean, I believed it. I really did, and I thought, wow, these guys are going for broke, you know, and it was all up there on screen.
There's a couple sequences where I'm actually holding the camera in them, and these guys are all, like Alex included, are all in the middle of it, and I'm in the middle with the camera shooting it. And there was a couple times in the back of my head, and I was like, if I go out, I guess this is the way it's going to go out, because at least I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm in it. So there's a few times where I looked at Alex and I was like, you have an axe in your hand, and an axe is going to hurt if you hit me, and I have the camera, so I can't see what you're doing. Just know that. And Alex was like, yeah, I'm just going to pretend you're one of the Mongols right now, and I'm going to go for it. And I was like, oh God. So,
well, Tommy Flanagan, Tugar, what a traitor to his people and his daughter. I mean, yes, there's a redemption, which we won't talk about. It's a nice spoiler, but come on. I mean, it was just, that guy deserved everything coming to him, you know. I mean, he really annoyed me. He was such a great performance by Tommy Flanagan, but I was just like, that's our villain. I think he's the villain in the movie.
Well, I think I'm glad that you picked up on that, because at the end of the day, this movie is about family and legacy and what you'll do for your family. And it's both sides of the coin. The same place where Robert's character is all about love for his family and doing things out of that. Tommy's character is doing things for his family, but it's from a much darker place. And so it's good that you picked up on like the real big differences
But
there.
how did Tugar know Chinese? Come on. I mean, that was the one that
Well,
was
so
like,
technically, there's a
I thought I
backstory.
missed something, you know? I'm like, how does 13th century, how in the world can he communicate so fluently with him?
So in the original text, what it is that the Mongols had come through Ukraine previously, and so Tommy had actually been captured once before and served briefly in the Mongolian army. But in an earlier cut of the film, we had a little bit more backstory for that in terms of like the build up for that. But it was slowing down a little bit of the pacing. So
That's part 2. Remember, that's going to be in part 2.
Yeah. In part 2, it's all flashbacks, so it's going to be real. It's going to be great, and we'll keep it cost effective. It's going to be fantastic.
And Alex, I love the Mongol general. He was one of my favorite characters too. He's so reserved. And your final battle with him, again, he looked like he was coming at you with full swings.
Yeah.
I mean,
He was. Terrible. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, we really honed in on the stunt training and stuff. It was really, that was probably the majority of the time spent cumulatively was just was training on the stunt stuff and the action stuff, and then we'd shoot, all the scenes for the day. But literally, it was like every time we had like any free minutes, it was going to the stunt training. So.
Well,
Yeah.
by the end of this movie, between Tugar and the Chinese, army, and what 90% of every villager was wiped out. I mean, there's a lot of reproducing to do. I mean, it looked like I kept thinking, who's left? They destroyed all these villages and all these armies. I mean, there's like a handful of survivors. Is that right? Or
it's just like a village.
brutal.
Takes a village, and then things happen. They got time. Yeah.
It's kind of what you were talking about earlier, Jeff, about trying to stay authentic though, because historically this is kind of what happened a lot of times. These villages that, maybe have 100, 150 people that these hotas, or they would call them in Ukraine, they would get decimated a lot of times, not sometimes by Mongolian invasion, but also from each other. Other villages would sometimes rise up against each other. And so it's very frontier living out there. They were
Not a good time to be alive at all.
Yeah.
Not a good time. Well, guys, congratulations on the movie. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully there will be a sequel. That'd be awesome. And
we'll see. We'll take a
one
little
step
break
at a
and
time.
then
One step at a time. Well, thanks for talking to me today. Good luck with the movie, and come visit us in Las Vegas when you have a chance. We'd love to have you.
we will. Thank you very much for having us, Jeff. Appreciate it.